Guys, good to be back. I mean, we went a year apart, and now we're like twice in a week. This is
I
good.
know. And thank you for coming to Basic Brunch on Sunday. The listeners loved meeting you, by the way.
Hey, that was really great, and I wish I remembered. I think one of the listeners was Matt, but I had a really nice Matt. It was Matt?
Yep, nailed it.
Man, he drove like an hour by himself just to meet everyone, and I thought that was really cool. Had a couple kids. We talked about that. Big Bruins fan, so shout out Matt for doing that.
All right. Well, we've been talking about last night all morning, so having a little while to sleep on it. Where, from your perspective, was the issue last night with the Boston Bruins?
You know, I think it was actually, I mean, sure, there's always stuff to clean up. Even after game one, they said, they talked about that. But I really do think Jim Montgomery's quote at the end, and I was trying to spit it out on our own show, and I couldn't really get it out. But the Leafs executed better. Effort was the word I used, but that's not the right word. Executed better. And I definitely think the urgency for Toronto was there. It was so obvious. And those little things, the little battle, a little keep in, a little, or not, it's not a little stretch pass, but obviously that move that Matthews made over McAvoy, if that puck, we were talking about, if that puck was on the ice, McAvoy would have had a little bit, more of a chance to get it. But these little smart plays and the reads that the Leafs made, I think just out-efforted and executed the Boston Bruins. So, yeah, they have stuff to clean up, but you can tell the Leafs are we are not going home with down 2-0 just because of the series, and that would just put the Bruins, give them so much more leverage. So I think it was really desperation.
I think using the word effort is spot on. I didn't feel like they came out, at least in that first period, with the same effort that they had on Saturday night. So that's true. And the energy was lower. The energy was definitely lower. Still playoff vibes, but Saturday was just night and day for sure. Yeah.
What plays into that, Sophia? When you're around these guys all the time, what plays into them maybe not having the same energy?
That's such a great question because, and I've been around so many other teams and through different phases, and for sure, if you're a younger team that doesn't have that much playoff experience, maybe you got to guard against getting too ahead of yourself. But there's no way that happens with this team. You have, even now for a short stint, Pat Maroon, Brad Marchand, Charlie Coyle, Pasternak, they've all been through the ups and downs of series. So you don't have to worry about ever them being we got this 5-1 game one. No one's thinking that. Everyone knows how talented the Toronto Maple Leafs are, despite the storylines from, their media. It's a good question because I was in the room that morning for morning skate, and yeah, the energy, the practice, the focus, everything is on point. But I really think, and this might sound like a cop-out answer, but I just feel like most people can relate. If you're not as desperate, literally, because you're up 1-0 and you're at home, you just sometimes can't manufacture it as well as the other team can. And again, I keep kind of flipping it over to the Leafs, but it's that they just wouldn't and couldn't, they were so desperate as if it was maybe even a game 7. And I know that also sounds like an exaggeration, but I just mean mentally, especially when they came out in the third, they're we are not leaving this building with a loss. And if you don't have that same urgency, you just can't manufacture that. Not saying that the Bruins sat back, not saying any of that. It's more of just that little edge will help you.
Sophia, there were varying reports last night on whether or not the team and the goalies knew that there would be a rotation going into this series. Have you heard anything? And do you think that Montgomery knew going in what he was going to do and everybody was on the same page?
I think the team did know what they were going to do, but I think it was subject to change, obviously. So game one would dictate a lot of maybe what the thought process was. I do think everyone was on the same page, and Linus Ullmark said in the scrum yesterday that he knew on Sunday that he'd be playing. So what I think is going to happen, and what I think happened last season, you guys remember, the rotation was working all year. They didn't go with it in the playoffs. Last year's a different monster, but several factors played into that. And maybe one of them was the fact that they didn't go with the rotation. Then all of a sudden, Jeremy Swayman had to step in, and maybe he's in his head about it because there's so much pressure. So I think they really want to avoid that, and they're obviously planning a deep run, and that's something that I keep forgetting because I was thinking like, oh, maybe ride the hot goalie for a bit and then bring in, the other guy, whoever it is. But if you're planning on going all the way to the final, you want to work what's been working for the season, and you want to keep both guys fresh. So I really do think that was the plan, and they stuck to it. And now the question keeps going: who's going to be for Game 3? I think it's going to be Swayman, and they're going to keep going through rotation.
Does the loss of Peak influence maybe what they're going to do moving forward? Because it seems like they're going to do a rotation for this entire series, but losing a guy on defense like that, is that going to impact Montgomery's decision?
Yeah, I mean, Peak, first of all, is a huge loss for sure. And I know he's also, trade deadline pickup, newer to the team, but just some grit in front of the net, which we've seen a lot, the PK minutes, like this is a really big loss. But no, I don't think that's going to affect goalies at all. I think the team, and Razor was saying this with Brick yesterday on the show too, one of the things you notice, and most teams don't have the luxury of having two number ones, is that teams, even though they say they don't, they try not to, they do sometimes play differently in front of each guy. But these guys have played, 2 full seasons in front of both. They play the same way. So Peak being in or out, I don't think that affects the goalies at all.
Sophia, when you look at, and I know there's kind of been a little bit of, and I believe you guys talked about it on the broadcast last night, the 2 power play units and the fact that you kind of broke up Pasta and Marchand not being on the same unit. What's your take on that? Do you like that? Do you like the way they're handling their power play, their units now?
Oh, yeah. I love it. And it's, maybe it takes a bit of, obviously it took a while because they made that decision with 2 games left in the regular season. They didn't draw power play at all versus Washington. So you're going into the last game versus Ottawa being like, is this going to work? Is this not? It needs to work. And it's been very successful compared to what we were seeing. And it's not just the goals that have been scored. What the issue was and what we were really talking about in the room with Jim Montgomery, it was very stale, the one with that they were using most of the season with Marchand and Pasta. And they were trying to even move the guys around, have them in different positions, Pasta flip to the other side. Marchand would come up top. But they weren't moving the puck fast enough, and they were overthinking their decisions. And it really is, to have a successful power play, it's those quick passes and those quick decisions and puck management, obviously, because then you kind of have to, rattle the other team's PK where they don't know where the puck is going to go and they can't predict it. And that's kind of what was happening with Marchand and Pasta on the same unit, sometimes McAvoy, sometimes Shattenkirk up top. This has been an excellent change. It's fresh. It's obviously we've seen some success with it, and both units now, have opportunities. So you're putting out, they call it the 1A, 1B, whereas before the first power play unit might be out there for 113 and the other would be out for 45. But the time the first one was done, they were kind of gassed and tired, and the second one didn't have a lot of chance to set up. In this case, they're trying to kind of make it a minute on each if they're not getting anything with the first one. And those extra 20 seconds really make a difference with freshness and with looks and, like I said, with passes and speed. So you really have 2 first units out there, and I think they should keep sticking with it because it's been way more successful than the way it was working before.
You mentioned briefly some of the veterans on this team. Curtis brought it up earlier. I think that was you, Curtis. Is this a young team, and do they miss some veteran leadership when it comes to Bergeron, Krejci, et cetera? And is that an issue, you think? Yeah.
I think you're always going to miss Bergeron. I think you'll always miss someone like Bergeron just because of who he is on the ice and his experience, obviously, and Krejci as well. But, that ship has sailed, so it's, it's not looking back. I'm just saying that, yeah, obviously that's a loss in the room. But I think Marchand, by the way, I've talked to him so many times, outside of the mic and off the mic, and he's done a really great job. He said it was a way bigger learning curve than he thought. Becoming the captain, but he's done a really good job handling it and in the room as well. And that's why you have your alternates too, right? You kind of spread out that responsibility. It's obviously going to be a new challenge now in the postseason. We know he's a really emotional guy. I think one of the keys is making a room, feed and vibe off of your emotion. But if your emotion's not in check, and he's definitely learned that though, but he runs the risk of that. If it's not in check, then maybe and you're panicked, then, that could spread. But Pat Maroon, whatever people say, I don't know if fans love him or not. I mean, I love him. I think he's a great pickup, and that experience, it's so funny because you see teams that are younger around the league, that are great, that have this talent. We've seen that with, Edmonton that can't get past a certain point. Back then, the Tampa Bay Lightning, who've since won, but you really need that playoff experience. Like, you need it mentally, you need it physically, and obviously Pat Maroon has so much of it. Marchand has so much of it. He's just second behind him in games played, I think 148, and Pat now has 152, which is huge. And Pasta's been through it. Pasta's not this, he's still flashy, he's still young, and he's still excellent, but he's not this inexperienced, young, flashy kid. And even someone younger like Charlie McAvoy has been through it. So, yes, there's some youth. Jake DeBrusk, I keep going. There's some youth on this team because we're looking at some of these younger, talented guys, but they're not, Matt Poitras, who's out, but they're not fresh like him. 18-year-old, 19-year-old kid. They've been through these experiences, and that I don't think there's anything more valuable than that. You can be the most skilled guy, but if you haven't kind of been through the ups and downs, you're going to have to learn the hard way.
Is it possible that Marchand is dealing with something injury-wise? It just has not for the last month and a half seemed like the same player.
That's funny you say that. If so, it's extremely tight-lipped around the team, and there's not been a lot of talk, about that in the room, at least as when I've been there. No, I would say, I'm just going to go out and say no, but I mean, good observation. I'll pay more attention to that for sure. The production has slowed down. There was a while where we were like, he's going to get 400 today, and it felt like forever. Finally, finally happened. It felt like we were jinxing him, obviously overthinking that maybe a little bit. But a lot of his points, too, did come on the power play. And not, that's not to say that that's why. But when it was struggling and Pasta had the same problem with points on the power play, that might affect the numbers. But I think, Greg, are you kind of giving it the eye test? Do you feel like you're seeing it more?
Well, I have an issue with my glasses. I don't know if you noticed on Sunday, but
okay.
I have Scotch tape on my glasses. So
he looks like he's moving around.
Yeah.
Well, decent. I mean, the only one who looks like they're skating in water
Pat
is
Maroon.
Yeah,
and
he went down hard last night.
I was moving faster at the brunch than he was.
He went hard. He went down hard last night. I felt bad. He landed right on his back.
Poor ice.
Sophia, just back to the Peak injury quickly. Have you gotten any update internally on if he'll be available for Game 3? And if not, do you think the best option is for them to call up Lohrei, or what would you do?
Oh, good question. No, I have not gotten any update. They'll be taking the ice a little later or taken to the plane a little later this afternoon. I'm staying in Boston, by the way, to host. So it'll be Adam Pellerin who's going to get all that information. But no internal update. And, yeah, like I said, big loss. For sure, you have Lohrei as an option. Forbert's traveling to Toronto. He played in those 2 AHL games. They said the first one was rusty. The second one was better. He's been out for a while, had 2 surgeries. So, but also familiar with the team and a veteran of sorts. So has playoff experience, maybe a little, if he's healthy enough, maybe that's a little less risque, and also has similar, I wouldn't say style because, Forbort, Peak, and Lohrei, all kind of different. But I think that Peak and Forbort are closer in what you'd see as style and replacing that. But Lohrei is absolutely an option, and we've got Parker Wotherspoon as well, who's been really good all season. Obviously been sitting recently, but it's not like he's a brand new option that they haven't seen. That decision, Courtney, I will leave up to the coaching staff. But those are your 3 options, and for sure I do anticipate them calling up Lohrei if Peak is injured and is going to sit for Game 3. Then I see that happening.
Speaking of staying in Boston and hosting from Boston, a texter who apparently is watching you very intently wants to know if you'll. I haven't noticed this, but do you wear black on purpose all the time, and will you continue, or will you switch? Will you switch that up? Is that an intention?
Okay. Listen to this. This is so funny. To the caller, no, I do not wear black on purpose. I do wear a lot of black, but after basic brunch on Sunday, I was thinking that I was like, here's what the viewers don't see. They see my tops, and that's it. So, pants, shoes, whatever. That's That's all I get to show. And there's only so much variety, right? If you're doing a whole outfit, you can do black pants, white shirt, whatever, blue, green. But it's either like pants you never see, so that's off the market. And all I have is tops. So after basic brunch, I actually went shopping for that very reason because I was like, damn, I wear black all the time. And I pulled out my options. I got 3 new colors. So if I can get some clapping, that'd be really nice.
Okay. All right. Good.
A little bit of yellow.
Yeah. Black
Bright
and
colors.
gold. Black and gold.
Purple. All right.
Purple, reddish, kind of pink, and white, which isn't a color, but it's not black. So to the viewer, I'm sorry. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be saying sorry, but I hear you. I got it.
No, you're always dressed perfectly. Don't listen to anyone.
100%. No, I think they were thinking it was intentional.
Oh, okay.
And wondering if it was like a game day ritual thing. And
Razor had some drip on last night. His jacket was
so nice.
Yeah, his jacket was straight
I didn't want to
fire.
sexualize him, but I did notice that.
Holy hell.
It was like a.
Well, people were saying that I was doing that when we were talking about Angel Reese. They were like, you sexualize Razor all the time.
Don't listen
I said,
to
nope.
people.
It's like a burgundy velour.
You do talk a lot on the show about how attractive
He's a
Razor
handsome
is.
man.
Just has skinny legs.
Nope, never said that.
Yeah.
Chicken sticks.
Sophia's like, what is going on?
No, I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the Bruins head to Toronto, and we'll see what happens.
Must win.
It's not a must win?
I think it is.
You do?
Because you don't want to. Sophia talked about energy and playing desperately. You don't want to go down 2-1 with in game 4 still being there, knowing that if we
They
don't
just need one in Toronto and then they're fine.
Yeah, but you always want to get the first one. You can go up 2-1 in the series, and like Sophia said, you might have a little bit of room of breathing.
Okay.
I would say, if I can add in, I would say definitely agree with that thought. But if we're talking about who can collapse a lot easier, it's definitely mentally it's the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I feel like if they win game 3 and then the Bruins, tie it up or whatever in game 4, I think that's going to be way harder for them to get over than if it was flip side. Like they fall apart. And I hate perpetuating that storyline because it is a bit old. We're talking about 2013. Like that's a different team right now. But it's still true for that room. So I agree. I mean, you don't want to go in being like, if you don't win this one, whatever. Like you want to treat it like a must win. But it's Toronto that would lose it in their heads if it kind of went the other way around and then, came back to Boston. So let's treat it as a must win and leave it at that so that the urgency, the effort, the execution, all those words are there.
You are so great to come on the show. Thank you as always, and we will talk to you again during the playoffs.
All right, guys. Bye.
All right, there she is, the great Sophia Jurksztowicz.
Yep.
Knows more hockey than anybody that there is.
Yeah, they do a good job in the intermission.
She is extraordinary.